know, one thing that me and you have in common, and something that in the fitness industry that's like controversial in a way, is like this whole like meat diet thing.
Yeah.
And do you find a lot of people like are against you on that or for it?
I would say I attract people that are like me. But I'll sometimes get like I eat a lot of meat.
Yeah.
So like I'll sometimes have like someone who's a vegan say something about it, but like I've done my research, so I'm happy to have that conversation.
And they
like,
never want that
they
conversation.
don't want that conversation
Yeah.
because I can poke holes in that in their logic, and you could probably some people could probably poke holes in my logic, but like I've done my research and I've done keto before, I've done carnivore before, I've almost gone vegetarian. I still had some like eggs and some chicken, but like not a lot of it. I've like decreased my meat a lot at times, and I've had only meat at times, and I feel way better on a lot of meat. Like I have a lot of meat and a lot of fruits now, and I feel phenomenal. It's definitely the best diet for me that I've had.
So, you know, a lot of people, they say the exact same thing about vegetarianism. But what I found was like they never actually followed like a more meat-based diet.
Yeah.
It was just more of like a Western-based diet where they're still having like a lot of like breads and stuff. And they're like, oh, I switched to vegetables and like vegetarianism or whatever. And I feel better. It's like, no shit, you feel better. But it's not the meat that was the issue. In fact, I had a friend come to the gym the other day, and he was like, and I was just telling him about like this whole like vegetable shit, like how it's not that great for you and it's definitely not good for your digestion. And how I have some friends who they'll like take a day off or 2 days off from eating meat. Yeah. I'm like, why do you do that? And they're like, oh, because just to like kind of fix things that are going on in there. And my response is always like, does it feel better? And they're like, no. Yeah. And also the fact that you have to do it over and over again. It's like, clearly there's something wrong. Like, cause I never have to like take a break from meat.
No,
like
never.
It never feels like, oh, I should eat some vegetables right now. In fact, I like barely eat any vegetables to begin with.
Sometimes I feel like I need a break from the vegetables, so I have like steak and eggs, and I don't touch anything else. I'm like, this is perfect.
So what I do is like I'll go to the grocery store, and if there's something that like if there's I always go through that aisle, like see like walk through the vegetables and like we'll pick up fruit and stuff.
Yeah.
And then if I see like some broccolini or something, I might go like, I'm gonna grab that. Like just looks a little bit appetizing in that moment, and I do sometimes enjoy it. But
and then it sits in your fridge or your freezer or something like that for like 6 months.
I'll take like 4 strands, and then it just like goes bad.
Yeah.
Arugula and always goes bad in my place. Yeah, but we always have it.
Maybe you should eat less of that.
Yeah. So it's weird because I do know, like, I'm thinking of somebody in particular right now who, whenever they have digestive issues, they're like almost vegan.
Yeah.
They'll add more veggies. It's like, why do you think that that's going to fix your problems?
Yeah.
So weird, man.
Yeah. If anytime you have a problem, I think elimination first. Eliminate first. If I have digestive issues, I'll fast. I'll eliminate everything. And I'll fast for 24 hours or something. I usually feel 100 times better. And then I can go back to doing whatever. Like, as soon as you have a problem, you want to add stuff. It's like being overweight and being like, oh, I should start taking this fat burner. No, you should stop eating so much food. You should cut out the bullshit. Eliminate first and then add shit back in.
So I was actually vegan.
Okay.
For 18 months. And it's because I fell into that whole, like, I went all the way deep into it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like the way to living life. Never felt shittier in my life. Yeah. And to the point where, like, I was starting to get skin issues, mental health issues were huge. And you'll find that a lot of vegans have mental health issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's because of their diet. They don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny on Instagram, like, how so many vegans are also part of these like mental health groups. And yeah, I personally think it's because of the diet, because I suffered through it. And then as soon as I started eating meat, I felt better. But I made a YouTube video called Why I'm No Longer Vegan. And it blew up to like 27,000 views just randomly. And after I started looking into like, why did this blow up? I like searched why no longer vegan. You search that on YouTube, it's like millions of just hits of just like vegans no longer vegan anymore. And so I started kind of like looking through there. And there's also a section on there, if you like search up no longer carnivore.
Yeah.
Now it's like almost the exact same thing. It's not as bad, but it's almost the exact same thing. Like these people like suffer from issues as well. And it almost like the carnivore community does the same thing as the vegan community. They like kind of sweep that under the rug and hide it. And they say things that the vegan community said, like, oh, he did it wrong and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think that there is something really wrong with the carnivore diet as well. And I personally haven't done it, but you have. So what do you think about it?
I really liked it, but there's a few things that stand out. Number one is I don't digest red meat that well. So I was eating a ton of red meat. And once you eat a lot of red meat, you realize like because it's so much more nutrient dense, like chicken is like fucking rabbit food. It's like hope I can swear about it.
Yeah. 100%.
It doesn't feel as fulfilling. So I was eating a ton of red meat and my digestion didn't feel that great. And then when I like kind of balanced it out and went to like more different types of meat and stuff like that, it did feel a lot better. So I think it's easy to get caught in that. And then also you're just like keto long term, which I don't think is the best thing either. So now I eat a ton of fruits. I have some rice, but like I definitely feel best when I'm eating like basically meat and fruits. I've done that for a little while and definitely feel my best then. And that's what like, so Paul Saladino recommends that now. He used to recommend full carnivore. Now he calls it like carnivore-ish, which is like the most natural foods for us to eat. Anywhere near the equator, they eat a ton of fruits. And it makes sense. They're colorful. Like the plants are asking you to eat their fruits, right? Green stuff doesn't stick out in nature. You don't want to go around eating a bunch of plants, like leaves and stuff. It doesn't make sense. It's not nutrient dense at all. And people say like, oh, like broccoli is like a superfood or something like that. No, it's not.
No,
it's not.
If I eat too much broccoli, I feel like I feel it.
Yeah, everyone feels it. You'll get bloated and gassy and you'll feel like trash. But I think the other thing is a lot of people will go on carnivore and they'll skip out on the organs and stuff like that. They'll skip out on the calcium. They'll skip out on a whole pile of different stuff. And like if you don't eat enough fish, right? You can get like EPA and DHA from grass-fed meat. You can get it from fish, but like if you're vegan, like start supplementing some cod liver oil or something. You will feel so much better. So much
just
better.
Like the vitamin A.
Yeah. People are like, oh, you can get EPA and DHA from flaxseed or whatever other seeds it is. I'm like, it doesn't convert the same. It's like trying to turn milk into water. Yeah, there's probably some water in milk, but what? It's not the same thing. One of the studies that really stood out when I read the carnivore code was they did an intervention trial, which is like the only nutrition stuff you should actually pay attention to is like, was it an intervention trial or like just epidemiology? Because if it's not intervention, you don't really know if it works. And they measured vitamin K levels, and it's K2 in humans, K1 in plants, K2 in humans and animals. So people who ate a lot of K1 in their diet from plants and stuff, their K2 levels did not change. People who ate K2 from like eggs and meat and stuff like that, their K2 levels went up. It's like, well, that right there shows you that if you're vegan and you're looking to get your K2 levels higher, it's not going to happen, right? So it's just not bioavailable to us. So I think there's issues there. There's got to be some issues with full carnivore, I would assume, right? I don't think you should go in extremes in anything, but I definitely think like for me, when I think of nutrition, I'm like, what's the closest to nature? Closest to nature would be like meat, eggs, fruits, things that don't need to be necessarily like cooked thoroughly or whatever. Don't need to be processed.
For me, grains are like totally fine.
Yeah.
So, but with my wife, they actually bother her. And so she kind of avoids them, but like I can eat 2 sandwiches a day and I feel completely fine. And I know that it's just a feeling, but do you feel the same way too? Because I've seen on your Instagram that you actually eat like sandwiches and stuff here and there.
Some breads don't sit as well. Some do. And like, I eat a lot of rice. I don't find quinoa sits as well. I don't find pasta as good, like gluten and stuff like that.
See, that's the thing with me. I can have pasta.
Yeah.
I can have pasta. People say like, oh, it makes me feel so tired after. No.
Yeah. You handle gluten well.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't as much. So like I can tolerate a little bit of dairy. I can tolerate a little bit of gluten, but there's
so you can't drink milk.
Actually, that was one interesting thing is I used to be very lactose intolerant. Like I didn't want to touch it. But after I went carnivore, one of the big things I found was, so I did it for like a month straight up carnivore. And then I started adding stuff back in. And as I started adding stuff back in, I was like, like maybe I'll put a little bit of cheese on this. Maybe I'll have a little bit of this here and this here. I'm like, oh, I had some cheese. Wasn't an issue. I had a little more cheese. Wasn't an issue. Had like a little bit of milk and some cookies. Wasn't an issue. And I was like, how much can I have? And then one time I had like a liter of chocolate milk. I was like, that's an issue. I had like soft serve ice cream. I'm like, that's an issue. But like, I couldn't touch it for a little while. And one of the big things is like,
so you couldn't even have cheese.
Not without feeling it. I'd do it sometimes, but I would feel it for sure. And one of the big things with like the carnivore diet is you're not taking in like histamines from plants. Like plants have histamines, right? And when we have allergic reaction, we take antihistamines. So all those people with like skin issues and stuff like that, it's usually just like high histamine levels from your diet. And your body's super sensitive to anything because your histamine levels are high, right? So when you take that stuff out, you start to feel better. And that's what I found is like, oh, you know what? Like, I'm not very sensitive to things anymore. I had no bloating. I used to be bloated 24/7. I used to have terrible, like, borderline IBS. I didn't go to the doctor for it or anything, but like just terrible. And after going carnivore, like everything sits better. Everything sits better. Yeah.
So carnivore diet, like in a way, is kind of like a detox then.
Absolutely. That's how I think it should be used personally.
So that's what a lot of people do like juice fast for, right? Detox. So and people claim it makes them feel better. So do you think that there's some truth in that as well?
Probably. Yeah.
Just like drinking straight juice for a month. I mean,
I think your macros are trash.
Yeah.
I think if you're gonna cut things out, you should cut out sugar and you should cut out like processed bullshit. So I think you should basically, again, like meat and fat would be the primary way. If you think of like how did humans survive for a million years, there was abundant like ruminant animals. That's like what are you gonna eat in the winter? You're going to eat a cow or like a mammoth or something like that. You're going to eat a big, large, fatty animal.
Yeah.
And what do tribes like? What's sought after by tribes? Animals, meat, honey, fruits, right?
So, we just going back on that dairy thing. So we actually get milk from a farm, like raw.
Nice.
Have you heard that you can actually do that?
I have heard that you can do that. I haven't done that.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. So we have to drive to the farm every week and pick it up, but it's raw milk, like straight from the teat, and they like do weekly testing on it to make sure there's no bacteria or anything. So it's like 100% safe. So if you want to try some later,
I would love to try.
Yeah, a glass of milk. It almost tastes identical, just like maybe like a little bit creamier.
Yeah,
but it has the same amount of lactose inside.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
and if it's fattier, it'll have less lactose for like the quantity.
Yeah. But it's pretty much almost the same as just like drinking like homo milk. But a lot of people say that raw milk, like they can take raw milk, but they can't have the like pasteurized like milk here, which is another thing too. I don't know if you heard about like why we have to pasteurize our milk here in Canada legally.
I have not heard.
So okay, Saputo.
Okay.
Like he's basically like mafia here. And so he has like a hold, or they have a hold on that entire dairy industry. And what they did was, in order for them to be able to make more money, they made like these processing plants. And they said that like raw milk is actually unhealthy for you because of that bacteria. And so we have to pasteurize it in order to make it safe. And so they like pushed and for the government to like make a law to actually just make it a law and like make it a thing when it was never actually like true.
Yeah, people drank milk for thousands of years.
Yeah, and like you can there can be bacteria in pasteurized milk. There can be bacteria in raw milk. Like it's the exact same thing.
Probably good bacteria at the end of the day.
Exactly, yeah.
It's crazy. I hate government regulations.
Yeah.
So one of the interesting things when we're talking about like coaching, like I'm a firm believer that we should all have rules for our lives. But I make my own rules for my life. And that's like what I tell my clients. I'm like, if you want this goal, you have to have rules for your life. You don't need to go work out 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. But if you're working out less, your diet needs to be more on point. You know, if you're doing A, you have to do B. Like, you need to set up guidelines and rules for your life based on the goals that you have. And that's what I do for my life. Like, I'm a big rule follower of my own rules.
Yeah.
but as soon as someone else tries to put rules on me, like the government, I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't give me stupid rules, especially ones that don't make sense.
Right behind you, there's 3 guns. And soon they're gonna ban like handguns. And why? Like, why are they gonna take away my handgun? Like, I'm never gonna kill anybody. Like, fuck, who knows? And the amount of regulations they have on guns is just stupid.
Yeah.
Because like you have to go through such a big process to be able to get guns, and like it's none of these shootings that happen in Canada are
registered gun owners.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're usually like guns from the States. And so why do we have to take my guns away? Who knows?
No. There's a lot of stupid rules to like it's like our medical system as a whole. Like, you have a symptom, let's address the symptom. It's like they don't care about the cause. Oh, there's a symptom. There's someone got killed with a gun. All guns are bad. It's like, I wouldn't go that far, right? And they just take one thing, blow it up, and then make some bullshit rule around it.
So when we had our kids at the hospital, there's like a bunch of stuff that they have to do. Like, and an example of something they had to do was eye drops, and they're antibacterial. I can't remember exactly, but they put these eye drops in the kid. And it's because they're worried about like the mom having chlamydia or gonorrhea. Yeah. And so as like the baby passes through the vaginal canal, that like it can get in their eyes or whatever, or if it does get in their eyes, because then it can be very dangerous.
Can't you just test the mom beforehand?
Dude, they don't test the mom beforehand. Insane.
Yeah.
And we were just like, no thanks. Like, we're like, why are you putting drops in my kid?
Pretty certain she doesn't have chlamydia.
Yeah, like that's it. My kids don't need that.
Yeah.
And we had like, they came up to us and they're like, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want to like?" We're like, "Yeah, she's fine. Like, we don't need this." So weird. And like it's like these people that are working in the medical industry, like healthcare industry, they don't even think about it. It's just like, oh, checklist. Like, oh, they don't want to check. Like, what happens if they don't want to like do it? They're just like so flabbergasted.
Yeah.
And there's a few other things too that we just like declined. And then, so weird, man. So weird.
You're taught to think independently. Are you not? Don't you go to school to like...
No, the thing is they're not taught to.
They're not taught to think independently.
It's like, do whatever the book says.
Yeah, do what the book says. Do what the FDA says. Do what these people say. It's like, well, there's some corruption out there, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so even going back to like when my daughters were born. So when my wife was pregnant, so she went to the doctor and they recommended like to take, I can't remember exactly. It was like some kind of like B6 shot or something, because women who are deficient in it tend to have like something wrong with their kid after. Yeah. I can't remember the exact shot, but she ended up refusing the shot. And later down the line, after she was pregnant, we actually got a full panel blood test for her. And this was after she was pregnant, and her levels for B, whatever it was, completely fine. That was after being pregnant. So like after like the babies like took all of her nutrients, she was fine. And it's like, why are you recommending this before even
testing it?
So weird.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that. Like they have a checklist and they're just going off the checklist and they don't even think about it at all.
Yeah.
And they're like, can the next person go in so I can make more money? That's it.
Straight up. When we're talking about so with babies and veganism, there's been some studies of families and parents and stuff who ate vegan while they were pregnant and while they're nursing. And then also there was a study, I can't remember where it was from. I want to say like Norway or Finland or something like that. Like, and it was of families that had a combined income of like $200 and something thousand. So like wealthy families. and they were vegans, and they basically did like blood tests on them to see what their levels were at. And every one of them was deficient in a number of categories, mostly like fat soluble vitamins, which are primarily found in animals, right? Kids had stunted growth. Kids had lower levels of cognitive development. And then like same thing with babies, especially like nursing moms who are on a vegan diet, their babies are deficient in stuff and they're deficient in stuff and their cognitive development's down. And I'm like, you can do what you want to do, but like you can't ignore that data. You can't ignore that data. Like I'm a big believer that like kids are a reflection of like they amplify anything. If something's wrong in a kid, it's not going to be good in an adult either, but like adults will be less sensitive to it. Right? So it just blows my mind that like it's so highly recommended. You know, so many doctors will say like, oh, eat more plants, eat less meat and stuff like that too. It's like, based on what? Based on what data that actually says that that's healthy?
Yeah. So I signed up for like this thing that it's an app that teaches you how to train your kid basically.
Okay.
So there's like exercise that you do with them and stuff. And then because I signed up for it, I get their emails. And then there's like one email that got sent in that was like, can you put your baby on a vegan diet and be healthy or something like that? And I was like, oh, I gotta open that.
Yeah. What did it say?
Up and it said that you can have a healthy diet, but you have to like consult your doctor first to make sure you know you're doing it right.
But your doctor doesn't know how to do it.
And that's the thing.
The problem.
Like, for me, like I don't need to know how to do something right. I just eat like before, like, okay, so our ancestors, right?
Yeah.
They just ate. Yeah. There was no like, oh, consult with like your like clan clan members to make sure you're doing this right. It was just like, yeah, just feed the kid like meat.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. It's like every tribe that like survives outdoors and stuff. What do they do with like, it's either the alpha, like leader of the pack, animals too, or pregnant women or children get things like organs. You know? Who gets the liver?
Is that true?
Yeah.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
So fuck. Okay, so we have liver. So I even like make liver into pate.
Okay.
So I had it this morning.
Yeah.
But dude, it does not taste good.
No.
So what's up with that? That's the thing. Like in my mind, I'm like, it has to taste good in order for like animals to eat it, right? But so why do you think?
Okay, so I have two thoughts on this. Number one is we get accustomed to things early. So I was listening to a podcast where this doctor was talking about like feeding his kids organ meat too. And he's like, he had one kid who was like 1.5 or 2, and then a kid who was like 4. And he's like, we started feeding them things like liver at the same time. And the one that was 1.5 or 2 would eat that stuff and want it. And he would crave it. The one who was like 4, no, didn't want to touch it. Right? So like immediately, somewhere between that time, that kid became accustomed to like not eating it. And then so like my experience eating liver, I never had it. As a kid growing up, never, not once. And so when I went carnivore, I was like, I need to try this because I know I'm not getting all the vitamins and stuff I need to. So I tried it. First time, I'm like frying it up. I'm like, it smells like shit. It looks like shit. I don't want it. So I put it on a plate and I'm like cooking some bacon and stuff. I'm like eating it. Every bite I'm eating with a little piece of bacon so I can get it down. And I'm like, okay, that wasn't too bad. I got it down. The next time I do it, I'm like cooking it. And I'm like, I don't like that smell. And as I'm cooking it and I'm like prepping other stuff, my mouth is watering. And I'm like, I'm not excited to eat this, even the littlest bit, but my body wants to eat this. And then the third time I did it, same thing. And second time it got down easier for sure. Third time, I'm cooking it up. Same thing. My mouth's just like watering. Like I want it, but I'm not craving it. So I put it on the plate. I'm cooking some other stuff. And I just find like I'm going over, cutting it up, just like having a bite, doing whatever, having a bite. I'm just like eating it by itself. Totally like habitual. Like I didn't think about it once. I'm just eating it. And I'm like, huh. That wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Like I don't like it. I still don't like it. But now like my body craves it. I know that this shit is like superfood.
Mm.
I've never felt that way eating broccoli.
Yeah.
You know, I've never felt that way eating kale. You don't crave it, and like your body doesn't crave it the same way. You don't look at a big salad and go like this is gonna fuel me.
Yeah.
Right? If I look at liver,
man, whoever says that's lying.
Yeah,
no way.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
Yeah.
Salad can be refreshing. It can taste good for sure, but it doesn't like hit you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like if I look at a steak or liver or something, like oh man, I know my body's gonna feel good after. 100%.
I could have like a plate of just steak and I'll be completely full.
Yep.
Like going back to the liver thing. So I did eat liver my whole life.
Yeah.
My mom used to cook it all the time. We'd have it probably about like maybe on a bi-weekly basis every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So when I did my bodybuilding competition, I depleted completely, and I was doing like if it fits your macro shit, so I was doing it like so terribly.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I was craving was liver. So like from probably like 6 weeks out all the way until the end of the bodybuilding competition. And I just thought that was so weird. And then I did eat it and it was like delicious. But in general though, for the most part, yeah, liver, like it's not tasty.
It's not tasty.
But which is weird though, because a lot of other organ meats, like I don't know if you ever had heart or
I like heart.
Tongue. I don't know if that's an organ, but yeah, it actually does taste good. Like heart does taste good.
Heart's just like dark meat.
Yeah. Delicious. Like we put it in a stew and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I think it's just worth it when like, especially if you're thinking of like hunters and gatherers and stuff like that. You were depleted, and you're like, this tastes good, right? They're
so
always
like
depleted. They're always depleted. They need it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like if you have that animal, it's like, well, what's the first thing you're gonna want to eat? The first thing you're gonna want to eat is the most nutrient dense thing.
Isn't that like so funny though? Like imagine a hunter gatherer hasn't eaten in a week. And it's just like picking up like leaves off the fucking like that's just not gonna happen. All they're gonna be looking for is like, what kind of rodent can I eat right now?
Legitimately, right? Imagine a vegan out in the in like trying to survive.
Yeah,
be like looking for a whole pile of plants. No, and people talk about like nutrient dense foods as foods that are high in micronutrients and low in calories. It's like never in our history have we been looking for low calories. Except for when we eat a highly processed, high-calorie diet.
Yeah.
That's the only time where we're like, oh, well, our problem is all the calories. That's never been a problem in the past. You want high nutrients and high calories. You want fatty meat. You want lots of protein. You want lots of fat. You want lots of calories. And ideally, like iron, B12, folic acid, like vitamin C, like all of that stuff. You want that stuff.
So I just remembered it was folic acid. That's what they wanted her to take. It wasn't an injection. It was actually just like take pills of folate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or folic acid. Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the plant form?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. It's the most privileged diet. Then people don't realize that. It's like, you'll never see like an African child like eating plants like that.
No.
Like you the only reason why you're a vegan is because you live in Western culture and you're able to somehow like work around it through processed foods to be like somewhat okay to live. That's it.
The one that gets me is when it's like sold as a moral thing. And it's like, oh, well, I don't want to kill cows. It's like, well, I don't want to kill rabbits and squirrels and everything else that you have to kill and murder a bunch of bees with pesticides to build an avocado farm. Like, people don't realize that, like, why are people cutting down the Amazon rainforest to put soy farms? Because Western culture drinks a bunch of soy milk and stuff and eats tofu. So how many animals are dying in that process? What's happening to the environment in that process? How much water is being used that wasn't being used before? Like, I don't know about you, but like, I've never seen the water infrastructure that's used for farming for cows. It doesn't happen. They can drink out of a stream, right? Like, it's just so people don't realize that like unintended harm is still harm. Right? Unintended consequences are still consequences. Like 2 cows will feed me for a year. How many squirrels and rodents and rabbits and raccoons and birds and bees and stuff are dying? Even, are dying just to save a crop. Like, no, it's not. There's harm everywhere.
There's deer that are running through those crops, and then just like a harvester comes, just like kills it, which is the same size pretty much as a cow. But speaking of cows, we inside that freezer right there, we have a quarter cow right now. Mm-hmm. And so we go through it probably around like 7 months or so. Mm-hmm. And so that means like I kill half a cow per year and maybe just like, I don't know, a dozen chicken or something.
Yeah.
But for you, like as a vegan, like you're killing millions of animals. And I pointed this out before to vegans. Yeah. And yeah, I remember this one conversation like, hey, like the harvesters, like they'll kill way more animals. She's like, I know. Like, that's it?
Yeah.
Like, and like now you're going to change your mind about veganism? No. She's just going to keep living her way, and she still is.
Yeah.
She's still vegan.
Yeah. I think the question is like, how do we live optimally, and how do you produce the least harm, and how do you improve the planet the most that you can? And it's going to be a complex question, so you need a complex answer. It's not just don't eat animals. Like, if we don't eat animals, who's going to eat the animals? If no one's eating the animals are going to die off because they don't serve a role in the ecosystem, right? Like, people are trying to save cows. Like, you realize if we don't eat them, they won't be around. You want them to be extinct? Probably not. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a complex question, but it takes a complex solution.
I know that for sure. Like, I've the studies that I've seen, the farms that are required for cows are way smaller than the farms that are required for like soy and just like vegetables in general. Mm-hmm. And also mono farms affect the environment so much because people don't realize that it's not like you have like avocados growing in the same place as corn and as like bananas and shit. No. It's like what they do is like they build an entire fucking farm just for avocados. And then next to that is like potentially some other like fruit or something. Yeah. Potentially. Yeah. But it might be like wiping out an entire forest just to put like a bunch of avocado trees.
Yeah. I think you got to do regenerative agriculture, right? Plant a crop. Then like after, a year or two, whatever, move that crop over to another section. Let some cows run on that area. Let some chickens on there.
Let them shit all over it.
Die on it. Bring back the actual soil so that it's healthy, and just keep moving it around. Like, that's the way that it's been done for thousands of years beforehand. It's how it should be done now, but we don't.
No, now it's done with like pesticides and shit.
Yeah, now we've got Bill Gates owning like the most farmland in the US.
Yeah, I don't trust him. Yeah, and he wants you to be vegan.
Yeah.
And he wants you to eat bugs.
Yeah. As soon as you see his body, you don't want to do what he does.
Yeah. No. That's the thing with all these like health professionals like that are in government positions.
Yeah.
Like they look so unhealthy.
They look terrible.
They do not take care of themselves, and usually they're like overweight, like super baggy eyes, and they just look like shit in general. They're skinny. They don't work out.
Yeah.
It's like, who are you to tell people how to live?
I will not trust you if I don't see the results. One of my favorite quotes, Les Brown says it: "Judge a tree by the fruit that it bears, not the fruit that it talks about bearing." Someone else wants to talk to me about health and they're not healthy. Sorry, I'm not listening. You look healthy, you're strong, you're happy. Give me some advice. You know, someone with a shitty relationship wants to tell me about their relationship or give me relationship advice. No. I will find someone with a great relationship. Yeah. I'll ask them what they're doing. I'll ask you what's wrong. I'll ask you about some problems you got. Sure, no problem. But like, I will judge a tree by the fruit that it bears.
You know, the people who like struggle the most, usually they're the ones that want to give you the most advice. Yeah. Like they're the people who've like gone through like 4 divorces and like they're just like so bad with relationships. Yeah. They usually want to give you relationship advice because they feel like they've like been through stuff.
Yeah.
And you're just like, no. Yeah. Like I want to listen to the person who's been through one relationship and like got married and they're like still together 50 years later. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, I used to really take what my parents said and thought like very to heart. And then I realized like over time, it was like, you know what? Like they've done well with their goals. I asked them what their goals were when they were younger. And both of them said, I want to own a home. I want to raise a family. Both of them separately didn't communicate it at all. I was like, immediately, I'm like, that's why you guys are still together. That's why you guys have had a good relationship. Because throughout all of those problems, you both wanted to raise a family and own a home, and you've done that. And congratulations, you're some of the most successful people I know. Because you've accomplished your goals and you're living your life the way you want to. Great. I don't want the life you lived. I want a different life. I want a relationship like that. Great. So I'll ask some questions about that. But like, I have a business coach. I have coaches that I'll listen to for fitness. I have people that I'll listen to for nutrition. I have people that I'll listen to for finance. I have specific people who are successful in specific areas. And now that's who I listen to. If you are not successful in that area, sorry, I don't want your advice. I can learn something from everyone. Everyone has something of value that they can provide, and I am here to hear it. But I'm specific with what I'll hear.
Yeah, a lot of people say like you should have a why in your life, and that's what's going to drive you. But I always found that like although I tell my clients like, yeah, find your why and like do all that stuff, it's more just like making a promise to myself and then just committing to it, and that's it. Like I made that promise with myself, and that's why I'm doing this, and that's it. Like it's not necessarily a why. Like I could say like, oh, my kids are my why or whatever, but it's not. Yeah, it's not the only thing that
I feel like you're gonna have a why. You're gonna have like a deeper and longer term vision for your life. And like for you, part of that is having integrity with yourself. Part of that is being the high performer that you are and achieving things and progressing in your life, right? So like you're like, yeah, I'm going to make a promise to myself and I'm going to keep it. But like, why are you going to keep it? Because you have integrity, because that's a high value for you, right? And when you think of your why, like it could be that like you want to provide, like you want to be a leader for your clients and your employees and your wife and your kids. Right? It could, whatever it is, but like you're demonstrating it in your actions already. I think values is a big thing. I've sat down and like written out my values a handful of times, and every time I've done that, that's given me like really good direction.
Yeah, for sure.
Integrity is a big one there.
I think the thing is though, like integrity with yourself. Like the worst person to lose trust with is you.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like a lot of our clients struggle with. Like they lost trust with that person. You can really tell in like the initial consultations and stuff where the person's like very skeptical to join and they have like a lot of questions and stuff. It's not necessarily they don't trust your program. It's that they don't trust themselves. It's like, I've done this before. Like, it feels so familiar. Like I've done like Jenny Craig, I've done Weight Watchers, I've done this, and none of them worked. And like, it was so much work and I just gained the weight back.
Yeah.
And yeah, they lose that trust with themselves.
Yeah. 100%. I literally made a video about that on, I posted on Instagram like last week or something like that. It's
really?
Like, you have to have integrity with yourself. That's what I'm talking about. And it's like, so many people think like, if I want to make a change in my life, like, I need to work out 2 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week. No, you don't. Oh, I need to eat chicken, rice, and broccoli every meal. No, you don't. I have to do this. I have to do that. No, you don't. What you have to do is make a rule for yourself, make a goal for yourself, like make a plan with yourself and an agreement with yourself and keep it. It could be make your bed and go for a walk. If you make your bed and go for a walk every day for a month because you said you would, you're going to compound that and you're going to do the next thing. And then you're going to set that for yourself and you're going to build trust with yourself and accountability with yourself. And when you trust and are accountable with yourself, then you have the confidence to do more things. But every time you lie to yourself, you lose trust with yourself. You lose accountability with yourself and you become less confident and you create more doubt and you create more indecision and then you get stagnant. And then like, that's how people compound over time to either progress or regress. 100%.
So let's wrap this up, but a question for you that will help the audience. Like, let's say you have somebody who's like really down in a rut and like has gone through that effect of like just losing trust. And then like now they're just like completely stagnant in life. What would you tell them to, or what would you have them do to help them improve?
The first thing is like getting to that why, right? Like, if I just ask someone, what's your why? Like, I think it's too broad of a question. So I want to really get into like, what are their pain points? What is their vision for themselves? You know, why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to build trust with yourself? Like, and then people are going to find that like, as they ask themselves these questions, it's like, well, I don't have confidence. I don't feel good when I do this or when I set this goal, or like I avoid setting goals because I don't trust myself, right? And it's like, okay, well then what we're going to do is we're going to set a low threshold task. Always a low threshold task. I think it was in Atomic Habits. They talk about the 2-minute rule. You create a task that takes less than 2 minutes and it'll trigger you to do the next thing. So instead of saying, I'm going to go for a 5-kilometer run today, you say, I'm going to put my shoes on and I'm going to walk out the door and I'm going to walk around the block. And like putting your shoes on is easy. Walking out the door is easy. So once you're out there, are you going to turn around and walk back in? Probably not. You're going to start with a walk, right? So you got to create that low threshold. People start and be like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym 6 days a week. It's like, okay, great. But they have these high expectations. I'm going to crush a leg day today. I'm going to do this today. I'm going to do that today. Get your ass to the gym those days. Like, I remember one of my brother's friends saying that he was going to go to the gym every day for like a year or something like that. And the only thing I remember about this process, number one, he lost like 100 pounds. And number two, he posted a photo of the gym door at like 12:30 in the morning because the gym closed at 11 and he hadn't been yet. So he went to the gym to take a photo because he was going to the gym every day. And it's like, that's the low threshold thing, is going to the gym. And he held that with himself. And like that day, I promise you, he gained confidence, right? I promise you, he gained trust in himself, because what's the point of going to the gym at midnight when it's closed? The point is you said you were going to do it, right? So like, I don't think we need to set big goals, but we need to set consistent goals, and we need to set them with like a low threshold that they can do. And then do that for 2 weeks, and then add something, and then do that for 2 weeks, and then add something, and do that for 2 weeks, and then add something. And then like 6 months later, you're doing a ton of stuff. That's what I think.
Dude, I love that. That was the perfect answer to that.
Good.
But yeah, anyway, Yorko, it was nice to chat with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. That was an awesome conversation, man. You should definitely come by again.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to.